Hey guys, Dylan from Noble Records coming at you with another video. So, a couple years ago I posted a video, top 20 most wanted records of all time. And you know, at the time I had like 5,000 subscribers. I didn't have that wide of a reach. I didn't think it would go anywhere or do anything. I just thought that, you know, some friends of mine might like to see it. And it turns out it's at like 1.5 million views now. But when I made that video, a lot of people called in the shop. I got thousands of calls saying, "I've got some of the records on your list. These are worth a fortune. I'd like to sell these records." All the stuff. I can tell you 1,000 stories about all these calls that I've gotten into the shop because of the video. In the video, I was pretty careful not to say what they were worth. Basically, I was just saying they were, you know, records that sold well in record stores, and a lot of people want them. A lot of people want them because they're common. So a lot of people were excited that maybe they hit the jackpot, when really it was just, they were really common records. They're worth money, but not, you know, fortunes. And so I did a follow-up video, a part 2, saying what each record was worth. Obviously that didn't get nearly as many views. And so this video I want to be able to have for people that are thinking, I've got records, are they worth money? I get a lot of people that ask me that question, and a lot of people that say, well, I've got this or I've got that, and I want this to be a video to kind of guide you, to let you know just a little bit what to look for when you are valuing your records. So if you haven't already, please do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. It helps me and my channel and help us to keep going. Also, if you have Instagram, follow us on Instagram. I have a record store in Matthews, North Carolina. We're always posting about record reviews, stuff that's coming in the shop, and interesting things like that. So are your records worth money? First thing that you have to consider is it's about the title, the pressing, and what condition it's in. And over the course of this video, I'm going to show you what all that means and how it's important. So starting off with the title. The title meaning, like, you know, Led Zeppelin this or Frank Sinatra that, you know, whatever record that you're looking at. So, you know, just quick rule of thumb, a lot of big band music isn't worth much money. Polka, you know, classical can be worth money, but it has to be really clean. You know, classical listeners like to have their music really clean. You know, things like Lawrence Welk, Al Hirt, those Reader's Digest box sets, you know, things like that. They're really not worth a whole lot of money. Not that they're not good music, they're just not what people are looking for right now. So the market, it's, you know, it comes and goes, but at this point, you know, a lot of that stuff is difficult to even give away. I do give it away sometimes at the shop because it's just hard to sell when you get it in. And so, but within those genres, like even within, you know, classical, there are some valuable records with classical. You know, like gospel music is usually not worth a lot, but there are a lot of gospel records that can be worth money. So it just depends on, it has to be the right thing. I will say it's rare that gospel is worth money, but sometimes it is. So having a record store, I have people all the time dropping records off, coming in, bringing them in, and they get shocked sometimes when they have some of these like classical or big band albums and they're not worth a lot of money. But I will tell you what to look for with those as well. Now to go more towards things that people do want, records that are valuable, you know, classic rock stuff, common stuff, like, you know, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, Jimi Hendrix, David Bowie, stuff like that is worth money. I will say it's not worth the fortunes and fortunes that some people think it is, but it's still valuable. And what's valuable also about it is that it moves quickly. Like, you get it in the shop, you can sell it the next day. It comes and goes really fast. And so, you know, the faster you're able to make your money back, the better for the record store. So I think that when you're trading stuff like that in, or you're bringing it into a record store to sell, that's the stuff that you're probably going to get the best money for. Now, there's stuff like punk rock, stuff like indie, stuff like that, 90s stuff like grunge. Stuff like that's worth a lot of money usually. And when I say a lot of money, it's a very broad term. You know, I would say, you know, 80 to 90% of all the records that I find or I get in the shop are worth $20 or less. You know, so we're not talking about huge money records. You know, I buy 1,000 records a week at least, and only a handful end up being worth you know, over $100. You know, it doesn't happen as much as a lot of people think. So there are some, and we'll talk about it. But you know, punk rock, sometimes reggae, funk, soul, stuff like that can be worth money. So that's stuff that you have to do kind of do your research on. But like with my top 20 most wanted video, all that stuff, all those records are extremely common. They made hundreds of thousands of them, sometimes millions of them. And so you got to think, they're not that rare. Like the biggest one I get is Michael Jackson Thriller. People say, I've got an original Michael Jackson Thriller. And that's great, but they sold, it's one of the best selling albums of all time. There are tons of them. Now they're still worth $20, $20 to $30, depending on how clean they are and what pressing and all that stuff. They're still worth that. So that's not nothing. That's money, but they're not worth. Some people, I think a lady called in the shop one time and she wanted to get $20,000 for it, and it was like they made hundreds of thousands of these, So it's all about supply and demand. It can be something that's really desirable, and there'd be a lot of it and people still want it, but if it's easy to get, it's not going to be worth as much as something that is maybe really desirable and they only made like 1,000 copies. Then that's when the money goes up. So that's just a classic rule of supply and demand. What's usually worth the most is really rare stuff that you might not think is worth much at first glance. I found a lot of records like rare psychedelic records, funk soul records. Sometimes that can be worth hundreds and sometimes thousands of dollars, but they're really unassuming and it's kind of hard to tell. So it takes years of training and buying records and all that stuff to be able to spot them. But with all that being said, there are some tools that you can utilize to look things up on the internet to see what is worth money and get a realistic idea. I do get a lot of people in the shop that bring in boxes of records and they'll have sticky notes on each record that says, $20, $30, $40, and they'll go on eBay and they'll look at what they're going for on eBay. So if you just go on eBay and you look and see, this Lawrence Welk record, somebody's asking $20 for it, people can ask whatever they want for it. You can see astronomical prices on like Beatles records and Herb Alpert records and things like that, but you have to go, there's a little tab where you filter, and if you look at that filter, there's one that you can click it's called sold items, and you can see how much they actually sold for. So like usually if you're looking like on a smartphone or even on like a web page, those sold numbers are in green, and that means that's what it actually sold for. And so that's how you get a more realistic idea of what these albums are worth. If it's what people are asking for them, I've seen people asking $50,000 for just a regular Beatles album that's worth $10. It really is all about what they've actually gone for. So you got to be careful with eBay. You can't really get the best information unless you look at what's actually been sold. And then like within that listing, you can see why. If it went for really low, maybe it was a condition issue. If it went for really high, maybe it was autographed or sealed or some rare pressing or something like that. So another really great resource is called Discogs.com, Discogs.com, and that's a website that basically is a database for records where you can see exactly what pressing you have. I actually did a video about how to identify what pressing you have. I'll put all these links to the videos that I'm referring to in the comment section. I'll have it pinned at the very top so you can go and just see all these videos that I'm referencing. But that's how you can go on Discogs and you can identify what pressing that you have of each record. But that is a better resource than I think eBay to give you a good idea of what they're actually selling for. One of the big factors is you have to figure out what pressing that you have. And so I just brought along a couple of records to show you. Most of the people have probably seen Black Sabbath. This Black Sabbath record, their first record, incredible album. The original U.S. pressing, can be worth anywhere between $20 to $50. Depending on the condition. If it's a really clean one, it could be worth $50. And the original has that green Warner Brothers label. I don't have one right now. This is a original UK on the Vertigo label. So originally in the UK they were issued on this Vertigo label, and these are among the most desirable pressings of this record. These can go for a few $100, because it's the original UK and it's really clean, it's in good condition. So that's the difference between, it could be a $50 record or it can be, $300 or $400, maybe more, depending on, whatever. So this is an original US pressing, but it's a promo copy. So it's got this white strip on it. It's got a white label promo, and so this is worth more than just a regular US pressing. The worth of promos are kind of a subjective. Another good website is called PopPsych, Popsike. that shows all the sold listings for records over the past like 20 years on eBay. So that's a really great resource to look for to kind of see which pressing you can put in information, and it will pull that stuff up. So that's just kind of the difference of that one record. It could be worth $20 or it could be worth $400. It just depends on, you know, which copy that you have. And so, you know, in addition, there's the constant debate with record collections, you know, reissues versus originals. You know, you can get lots of reissues for $15 or $20 that the original costs, you know, $300 or whatever. And so you have to determine what pressing you have, because the reissues usually aren't worth nearly as much as the originals in a lot of cases. So like with jazz records, some jazz records are worth money, like on the Blue Note label, they can be worth a lot of money. But you have to make sure you have the right pressing, because just the variation of 1 year could change the value dramatically. So that's just kind of a very, very cut and dry explanation of how to determine value based on pressing. Like I said, I've got other videos that go way more in depth of how to do the research on figuring out what pressing you have. So I'd encourage you to check that out if you want to get this far with the process. The most important factor is condition. I cannot stress this enough. I have had records that are worth $1,000 that are just warped or water damaged or scratched or cracked or whatever, and they're not worth much or anything at all. So, you know, if you look at the vinyl, the condition of the vinyl, if it's got a bunch of scratches on it, if it's really scratched up, or even if it has just a few scratches on it, record collectors, a lot of them collect for the sound quality. You know, I do hear the rumor, I've heard a lot of, especially older people, they'll come and say, well, people don't really listen to records. They actually only want them for the covers. That's actually not true. You know, some people, different collectors are different ways. There may be people that only collect the covers, but a lot of pit collectors want it for both. They want a good cover and they want a good, you know, record as well. And so those things, they impact the value more than anything else. Probably is the condition. You know, a lot of people will bring in really rough records for me, and they'll get upset if I don't want them because they're just in too rough a shape. But it is a very, very common thing to see records in rough shape. So if they're stored improperly, or they're warped, or they weren't taken care of, or the jackets are split, or they got names written all over them, or the records are scratched, or whatever, that really, really, really impacts the value. I mean, I have seen collections that are amazing collections that would be worth thousands of dollars, and they're really not even worth anything because they just haven't been taken care of. And so that is a huge, huge factor. So when you're looking at the condition of your record, just think, you know, what's the difference between this and a brand new record? If it's all torn and scratched and stuff, it may have some value. Like I have had records that are really, really rare, and have some condition issues, and they're still worth something. But if you're looking at just like a regular common record, you know, condition can be a big deal. 80 to 90% of what we get in the shop is worth $20 or less, you know, and that's fine. They're still worth something. But a lot of people have this idea that their Beatles records are worth tons and tons of money. Beatles, Elvis, Michael Jackson, things like that. I get a lot of people that they call in the shop and they say, I've got this Beatles record and it's worth all this and that. You have to remember that the Beatles were one of the best-selling bands of all time, and there's so many records out there that, although they are worth money, the average Beatles record's probably worth 20 bucks. One thing I would stress to you is if you have records and you're wanting to get rid of them, do not throw them in the trash. I can't tell you how many times people bring a box of records into the shop and it's just a bunch of stuff that isn't worth anything, or it's in bad condition and I don't want it, and right at the bottom of the box there's a really great record and it's worth $100 or something. I mean, that happens all the time. So don't throw your records in the trash. I would advise you, if you have a local record store, bring them by. They need your help, they need your support, and your records don't need to go in the trash. So bring them to your local record store if you have any records before throwing them in the trash or whatever. I mean, even if you donate it to Goodwill, record collectors will find them. So just do not throw them in the trash. So there's a lot to learn there, but I hope that this has been a good guide for you to direct you on if your records are worth any money. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, follow us on Instagram, and thank y'all so much for watching this video. We will see you in the next one.